Hi, it's So Steady, Stacy with So Steady, and we are here for our first Friday with Pam, and that is the first Friday of each month, right, Pam?
Yes, we will be here the first Friday. And this is the first Friday.
This is the first Friday ever with Pam Varner, and she is going to be walking us through this adorable or Westalee quilting project, and how she created this gorgeousness. So, Pam, I'm going to have you take it away because clearly I'm not talking well today, and you can
That's
tell us
fine.
all
You
about what
can.
you're going to be sharing with us.
Okay, thank you. First of all, hi everybody and welcome. I'm super excited to be here. And I just got a notice on my phone that I'm starting live. So that's really good. I'm glad you're here. I hope everybody can hear me fine. And this month, we're actually going to do a project. I don't know that I'm going to do that every month, but this month we're going to have a project. So I call this my summer placemat because the summer holidays. 4th of July is coming up, and then, all through July, people like red, white, and blue. So I thought I would do something like that. So I'm going to tell you what we've got going on here. We're using the Star One templates from the Starry Night set. I'm going to explain that in a minute, but I just wanted to show you the finished product. But in order to do this finished product, and here's the backing, it's kind of fun. We need a 12.5 by 12.5 inch center square, and I'm just using a dark navy with some polka dots on it. And then on the corners, I have 3.5 inch squares. And I used alternating print with white fabric to kind of give it a red, white, and blue look. You could do any fabrics on this if you wanted to. You could make it, you know, pink and green or whatever. So it's just I've made mine kind of holiday-ish. So this is what we got going on here. Now I'm going to tell you the templates that we're going to use. Oh, the other thing that you need is backing fabric, and the backing fabric is cut at 12.5 by 18.5. And then you need batting that's bigger. And if you noticed, I put my fabric kind of up towards the top. And this is cut, I think it's cut at, let's find out. Oh, that's not a measuring stick. That's not going to help me. I think it's cut at about 20 by 15, something like that. You don't need a whole lot on the top or the bottom. You do kind of on the sides, need at least an inch on the sides. And what I've done is I've gone all the way around the perimeter of this with a zigzag stitch. I do that whenever I'm quilting something small because I don't want it to get caught under my ruler or have a template move it or have things get messed around. So I always do just a little zigzag stitch all the way around the edge. So I've already done that. I've pieced this together, alternating the white and the print on the sides. So you could also just do a 12.5 by a 3.5 inch strip on both sides if you wanted to do that, and then sew it all together. So I simply kind of put that together. All right. So now the templates that we're going to use for stitching, I'm using the Star One templates, and this is from the Starry Nights collection. And I'm using the 1.5 and the 2.5. Those are the only stars I'm using. And then I'm also using a straight template. So you could use your 12-inch arc if you wanted to. I really like the inside of the Sarah Diddy linear channel ruler. So the linear channel ruler comes in 2 pieces. I'm just going to show you this really quick because it's kind of fun. So when you get it, it comes like this. And then poof, you have two pieces. So this is really good for piano keys. And doing, because you can stitch on either side of this and also up on this channel. But I like this. I like the size of it. It fits in my hand really nicely. I can use both sides. It doesn't matter. I don't have to worry about the curve on the arc and go, oh, wait, I need to flip this around or whatever. So I just thought I'd show you a different straight edge that you can use. So that's why we're going to use this today. So let me put this. I just lost my star templates. I don't want to lose them. I need them over at my machine. So let me set them over there. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to mark our top. So what we want to do is get a little ruler, which I forgot to get out. So let me get it now. And we want to measure halfway up this second block from the bottom. Okay. So that's going to be 1.5 inches that we want to measure up. This yellow is not very good. Let me see. Right there is my 1.5 inches. So I'm going to mark there. I'm going to come over on this side. And I want to do 1.5 inches. Wow, this is really hard to see on this yellow. And if I turn the light on, it's going to glare on you. So that's not good. Let's do there. There's my 1.5 inches. And then I'm just going to connect that and draw a straight line. This is the 2x18 inch template. I don't use it for stitching because it's so big, but I love it for marking because I can extend my lines for my crosshair squares and that kind of stuff. So I really like this. Now we need to find the half here. Well, I know that this is 12 inches. My little ruler here is 6 inches. So I'm just going to make a little mark right there. And that is where I want to start my marking. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my crosshair square. And this is going to be a little bit different than what you're used to. We're not going to use all the marks, but I'm going to put my crosshair square down. And I'm going to, there's my center right there. And I'm going to mark, this is above the horizontal line. And then this is below the horizontal line. You could, if you have the Starry Night set, you could do the 16 with this if you wanted to. But I thought I would just do it with the 8. Okay. Now I'm going to turn this and I'm going for the center line because I want to add markings between the lines that I just did. And then I want to go below the horizontal line. I usually don't go back and forth, but it makes it easier for you to see. I usually just do one. Make sure they're all done. So there we go. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on top, 7 on the bottom. But I want 15 on the bottom. That's how I get that spray look, which I really like. So I'm using the lines on the bottom here and lining up with what I've already marked. And I'm filling in the bottom. And then I have to turn it again until I get the other section. There we go. So I have these lines on the bottom. There's 15 lines on the bottom and 7 on the top. Okay. So I'm going to take my 2x18 inch ruler and I'm going to extend some of these lines a little bit. This one needs to go out a little farther. This one may need to go out farther. I'm not really sure. And I think that one's okay. I'm going to extend a couple down here. I can get away without these going all the way to the edge. But we'll just make them go to the edge. When I stitch this part, you'll see what I mean. So everything is marked with my straight lines. Now I'm going to get out my outer rim tool, and I need a pin for that. So I know a lot of people use tape and they pin on the top. I've never been successful with that. So I just go from the bottom. It's always been my go-to. And I poke it up through the bottom. Sometimes if I'm stitching, I'll start by poking it up through the top to create a hole first and then go through the bottom. But since I'm just using this for marking, I'm just going to pop right up there. There we go. So there's that. And I'm checking my notes here to make sure I get this done right. So the way that this works, if you use the straight edge to mark, you want to use the side that has all the numbers on it. And the reason I put the tape underneath this is it's easier for me to read the numbers. And then you put your outer rim tool on here and you use this and you always get consistent markings. If you want to use this section with a ballpoint pen or a marker or something that's really thin that fits in that hole, then you use the numbers on this side that are only even numbers. So that's how that works. Okay. So we're going to start. This is 1. We're going to start with 5. So I'm going to put the 5 dot hole right there on the pin, and I'm going to mark 1, 3. So that was 2, 3, 5, and 7 with the number 5. Then I'm going to go to 10 and a half, and I'm going to mark 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 with the 10 and a half. Now I'm going to go to 11 and a half, and I'm going to mark 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 with 11 and a half. And then I'm going to mark this center one at 9. Now I played with this on paper to see how everything would come out. So there we go. That's our marking. Now this horizontal line we're not going to use. I'm not going to stitch on it. I'm not going to use it for anything. So I'm going to just rub it gently with my finger so that it's not as dark as the other lines, to kind of remind me not to use that. Okay. So now if you give me a minute, I will. Oh, the other thing I wanted to tell you, there's no fabric on the back of this. It is just batting and topping. I do this all the time. You may have to lower your foot a little bit. So we're going to see what happens when we start stitching. Okay, I'm trying to look at comments and there's a really long one, so give me a sec here. All right. And I'm going to move the camera. There we go. So we're all set to start stitching. I've got my spacing gauge because I'm going to need it. I'm going to pull from, just a sec, I just lost myself. I apologize. I want to be able to see comments. And apparently I messed something up. So, well, I'll have to check comments every so often to make sure everybody's okay. I'm going to pull in the middle here. And there we go. That's an awful lot of thread. And then a trick that I learned from somebody, I don't remember who it was. Once you get where you want to start, just take a stitch and it secures your threads. You don't get a little jump stitch and everything. Then you don't have to tightly hold this while you start stitching. It's very nice. I like doing that. So what we're going to do is we're going to start on the first row or the first line. So this is the very first line. And we're going to stitch up to where we marked. And we're going to stitch on the line. So I need my spacing gauge here so that I can stitch on the line. And I'm going to stitch right up to the mark. And then I'm going to stop. I'm going to get out my 1.5 inch star. I'm going to come under the foot. I'm going to raise my foot and go like that. I really like those little channels. I think they're really nice. And then I'm going to stitch around. Now, if you notice, I'm stitching really fast. My needle's going really, really fast. It's a lot faster than I normally stitch. And that's because this is small and these corners are really tight. There we go. And my tension is not perfect. So I'm going to try that. There we go. And now I'm going to stitch back to the center. So I'm going to move this so you can see. I'm going to stitch on the line that I already stitched. And I'm going to come right back down to the center. So all these lines are going to be double stitched. Now, when I get to center, instead of going off somewhere else, I'm going to continue stitching. And I'm now stitching below that horizontal line. And I'm just going to use my spacing gauge here. And I'm going to stitch along the marked line. When I get to the edge of my piece, right here, I'm just going to go back to center. There we go. Now I'm going to go to the last line, which is the 7th one. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I'm going to stitch up to the marked line and do another star. Stop there. I'm stitching with the point of the star out, like away from center. And now we're going to go back to center. And I got off the, I don't know if you can see this, but my stitches aren't exactly on my marked line. So I want to make sure when I come back on the stitched line and not the marked line. Okay. Now we're going to go to the next line over. If this is one, we're going to go to 2. Oh, you know what? We're not. We stitch back down here. Now, while I'm there, sorry about that, I want to stitch this line that directly goes from where I just came from. So I'll put my template all the way down here to the edge so I don't have to move it. And then I'm just going to stitch down like I did before. And if you're not perfectly on the line, it's okay, because the lines are going to be erased and no one's ever going to know. There we go. Now we can go up here. We're going to come up here to this mark. This is the one that was marked at 10.5. And we're going to take our large star to 2.5. And we're going to stitch the whole star. And while I'm up here in the center mess right here, I'm actually going to trim that because it's going to be stitched over. It's already been stitched over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 times. So it's very secure right there. I can easily get away with having those threads clipped. I stitched my star. I lost my straight template. Found it. Has that ever happened to you where you're stitching and all of a sudden you lose a template? And we're going to stitch back down here. Come to center. Move the template down. Stitch below the horizontal line. All the way to the edge. And then come back up. So I'm using a 40 weight thread. I'm actually using glide thread in the top and the bottom. I'm using a 90 top stitch needle. I like a 90 top stitch needle for ruler work. I have used other size needles, but I really like the 90, unless I'm using a very thin thread, and then I'll go down to an 80. Okay, so now I've done this one. I'm going to do the one that's kind of opposite on the other side, coming up from horizontal. So this is line 6. Stitch up to the line. Stitch the 2.5 inch star. I like this design because it's something different on the top and the bottom. And it's not like a square or circular design. Doesn't start in the center of the piece. And it stitches really quickly. Everybody will be able to go make dinner. gonna go this way. I moved my template. And I'm getting where you can see some double stitching, but that's okay. Sometimes if you push too hard on the template, that's what happens. So I'm just taking a second here to look at comments. And let's see what we got going on here. There is not a handout for the project, but I will be happy to repeat when I'm done everything. So I'm glad you lose things too, Linda. That makes me feel better. All right. Okay. Yeah, I like taking an extra stitch and securing my threads. So I think I'm caught up on comments. If there's something that I missed, please let me know. And let's go back to what we were doing here. We stitched down there, came back. Okay, now we're going to do the center one. And this is the mark of 9. So I know it's getting kind of repetitious, right? Stitch up to the mark, so star, stitch back. It's We're going to stop right here. Put in the 2.5-inch star and stitch all the way around. When it's a placement, I always flip my piece back and forth. When it's on a quilt, I don't do that. I try and keep it in the same orientation. Get to the center, readjust my templates, and go all the way to the edge. Get to the edge and stitch back. All right. Now, for something a little bit different, we have 2 lines left and we have 2 marks on each one. So we're going to stitch up to the first mark and stop. And those of you that have done the starry night are very familiar with this. But if you're not, we are going to stitch half of a star. And then we're going to stitch the other half on the way back down. So here, and when I get to this center line, I'm going to stop. And now I could use this template because I have enough of it, enough space. I think that's a good idea. I'm going to stitch up to the next mark. And then I'm going to use the same template. And I'm going to stitch a whole star. Okay. Now I'm going to go back to here, the top of this star, which is kind of hard to determine. So I'm going to tell you, I'll give you a little secret. You think you're there. Sometimes you are, sometimes you're not. But what I do is I use my spacing gauge and I check to make sure that I am a 1/4 inch away from this point, and I'm not. I'm too close. So I have to just stitch up a stitch, or I should have come down a stitch. That was kind of silly. There we go. And now I should be a 1/4 inch away, and that should be fine. So now I'm going to stitch the other side of the star, and that completes the star. There we go. Now I'm going to stitch down to center. And follow that line and go all the way down. We have one more with stars to do. That's the last one that's marked, and we're going to repeat what we just did. So we're going to go up to here and do a 1/2 star. Now, if you mistakenly do a double star, which I have done in the past, or a complete star, I can't tell you how many times I've done that, where I haven't been paying attention. It's okay, just do it. A 1.5 stars, and then when you come back, you'll just have a star that's double stitched. It'll be fine. So I'm just checking comments. And I think we're caught up on comments. So remember, this is a 1/2 star. I have to remind myself of this stuff. And this is a whole star. I shouldn't try to hold the spacing gauge and the templates at the same time. It's not very useful or helpful or okay, I think I'm at my point. Let's see what happens. Nope, I need to stitch down farther. Probably one more stitch. There we go. Now go back to center. And go back. I like the straight lines below the star. I think it kind of gives almost a reflection. Okay. So now I have all these marked lines that don't have any stitches on them. And I'm going to fill them in. And I'm just going to do straight lines on every one of them. Remember, don't stitch on the horizontal. So if I turn this way, this is the horizontal line. That was the very first mark that we made. I don't want to stitch on that line. I want to stitch on every other line that's marked, but not that one. to the edge. Then Regina, I don't remember if they're the same ones from the Goodnight pillow. You certainly could use the templates from the Goodnight pillow. And if you don't have any stars, like these are 1.5 and these are 2.5, you could use mini spinifexes and do either, like 5 points with a mini spinifex and kind of get the same look. So the stars are just really fun. But all you need is a 1.5 and a 2.5 inch template. So I would have to look up the instructions for the Goodnight pillow. So the Goodnight pillow that Regina is referring to, okay, so Linda said they're not the same templates, but they're close in size. So that's what you need, is close in size. The Goodnight pillow is a project that I did. It's on the Sew Steady University using star templates and some techniques from the Starry Nights quilt. But you don't have to have the Starry Night quilt to make the Goodnight pillow. And I used glow-in-the-dark thread, which was really fun. This would be fun on here too, to do glow-in-the-dark thread. And then you could have placemats for, outside in the evening when it got dark and it cooled off. I don't know what the weather's like where you are, but it's 108 degrees here in Southern Arizona today. So I'm staying inside. All right, we are almost done. We just have 2 more to go because I don't want to do that horizontal one. And then we're going to do the side panel. To the edge and then back up. I don't know if you can see, but I'm getting some like not perfect stitching, which I don't mind telling you. And it's because I'm pushing too hard on my template. So I'm like putting way too much pressure on my template and it's causing it to move. So I'm trying to relax a little bit. Trying to relax my grip a little bit. Sometimes that happens when my feed dogs are down. My feed dogs are up, so that's good. There we go. So I've done all my stitching. I could, if I were going to bury these threads, which I'm not going to do, but if I were, I would stitch out a little bit from center just because it's really hard to bury in a spot that has that much thread in it. I do that with spinifexes all the time. Once I complete the last rotation, I just take a couple stitches out from center, then pull my threads and bury so that I'm not trying to bury on that nest. But this time I'm just going to come out and then I'm going to go back and cut my threads. So here we have, I know you can't see the whole thing, but here is the center design. And when we're all done, I'll take it over to the board so you can see the whole thing. So we have stars coming out, and then we have this kind of reflection on the bottom, which, I don't know, I think it looks like fireworks, but. Now, I'm gonna put 2 1.5-inch stars in each of the white squares and a 2.5-inch star in the print squares, okay? But this is gonna be stitched along here, so I wanna make sure that my stars are as close to this blue fabric and the print fabric as possible, so that when I stitch the backing of the placemats, it's not gonna be a problem. So I know that if I put my star template up against here, that's gonna be a 1/4 inch away, right? But if I move it up a little bit and I use my spacing gauge and I move that so it's 1/8 of an inch, then I know that my star is going to be about 1/8 of an inch away from the seam line. And I think that's a pretty good way to start. So, and I'm going to stitch these stars, and then I'm going to lock the threads, and then I'm going to do the jump thread. I'm sure a lot of you have seen that, but just in case, I will share it with you. So now we're going to go this way. When I get up here, I'm just going to lock my stitches. And then I'm going to raise my needle and my foot. And I'm going to move over here. And I'm going to move my star a little bit. So it's, put it right up like that. So it gets close to the star that I've just stitched, but it's not going to be on top of it. I'll be right next to it. But it leaves me room on both sides here for when I put the backing on. So I'm going to move away from the corner a couple stitches. I'm going to stitch up to the corner, or the point, I guess, of the star, and then back down. And that locks those stitches right there. Now, if you wanted to, you could change your thread. You could change your thread to like a red or a blue thread in these white areas. That would be really nice. Okay, I got a little bit of a mess going on, but I'm going to cut those threads later. I'm going to raise my needle, raise my foot, go over here, and I'm going to put the 2.5-inch star in this area. And let's see, move it up there so that we don't stitch and we're far away. So remember, away from the point, a couple stitches, stitch up to the point and then back. And then that locks those threads in. Go up to the point and come out. And if you want to take a couple locking stitches, you can do that. And now I'm going to raise this up. When I come here, you see how this is all caught in here? So from the previous one, the white block is where I'm going to trim the thread. And then that frees up my so I only have one thread. I take it through the groove right here. And then we're going to come over here and see. You can tell when you have this down, like that you're not going to hit the edge. So away from corner, couple stitches up, and then back. And then lock it. Raise the needle and the foot. Move down here. Cut this one from before. There we go. Move the template a little bit. I want it up here close. There we go. Away from the point, up to the point and back down. There we go. And now raise the needle, raise the foot, come over here. Now I want to stay away from this edge and this edge right here. So I want to put my template as close over on the top as I can get. There we go. I don't want to go up too high. There we go. Up to the point and then back down. And that was really close. That's okay because we're at the edge and it's print, so it doesn't show up as much as the other ones did. Now I'm just going to lock these and cut them because I'm not going to do a jump stitch all the way to the side. And now I'm going to take all of these jump stitches and I'm going to trim them. So sometimes I like to keep a piece of batting on my sewing table and then I can put the threads on the batting and they won't fly away. They'll stay on that little piece of batting. And there's one right here. There's one right there. And then there's this one and these two. So there you have it. These stars are a little close together, but they still look fine. All right. So we're going to do the same thing on the other side. And then we'll be done with the quilting part. And then we can put it together. Oh, 108 El Paso. Little hearts would be cute. Use the 1 and the 2-inch hearts. That would be cute. Okay. Let's start at the top again. That's my little star. And remember, we're pulling just a little bit away from the point. Jeez, that's a very long piece of thread. It's one thing I'm not known for is conserving thread. Up to the point. And get those threads out of my way so I don't stitch on top of them, up to the point, come back down, do a little lock. And then raise the needle, raise the foot, come over here, do it like, that'll be like a 1/4 inch away. Yeah, that'll be good. Away from the point and then up to. All right. A lot of threads going on there. Let's see. I think that looks good. Yeah. A couple of stitches away, up to the point. You can, of course, if you want to, do each star individually. Cut your threads, bury your threads, whatever you're most comfortable doing. But when it's a placer, I tend to just try and get things done if I can. My template is caught on a, I don't want to cut that thread. I'll put on the one over here. If you cut your threads, you have to be careful. You don't want to cut the thread that you just came from. Because that's the last anchor that you have. If you cut this thread, now you have to re-pull and start over, which is fine. You can do that. I'm just giving you a little warning. So. Come here, come back. Okay, now, second star. I'm pulling the wrong thread. Okay. So now I pulled this like really loose, so I'm going to have to just kind of remember that and hang on to it when I stitch. So what I rotated my template a little bit so that I'm not stitching onto this star and I'm not stitching onto the red and blue fabric. I think we'll start here. And we'll start here. This is a bit good this time. And we have one more star to go. Let's see. Again, we want to stay away from this left edge and this bottom edge. I can't tell you how many times I've messed that up when I first started quilting. I was doing a design and I went right up into the corner of the block, not taking into consideration where the binding was going to go. But I've always remembered since then. Now we're done. Okay. So again, we're going to clip these jump threads. I kind of apply the same rules of embroidery that I do to ruler work. So if you can do jump threads in embroidery, I think you can do jump threads in ruler work. Okay. My threads cut up here. Now I'm going to switch cameras and go back to the board. And okay, let me just see if there's, okay. What I'm going to do that you're not going to be able to see is I'm going to trim along here. And it's because I don't have a camera at my cutting board. So I'm just going to trim this off right at the edge of my piece. Okay. So I'm going to do that. I'm trying to think of what I can tell you while I'm cutting. Nothing too exciting. I don't want to make a mistake and cut my finger. That wouldn't be good. I need a longer ruler. Here we go.